Well, the Diamondbacks are reportedly meeting with Kazuma Okamoto this week, or they're not, because it was apparently just a bad translation situation. We're talking about who is in on Okamoto and if the Diamondbacks have any chance at adding to this roster here anytime soon. Don't you go anywhere. We're starting in 30 seconds. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Back Podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. It is I, your mayor of PHNX, occasionally known as Derek Montilla. Thrilled to have you guys here and thrilled to be once again raking through the muck of these Diamondbacks rumors that we are hearing. Of course, I got my guy holding me down on the ones and twos today. He is the leche to my con cafe. It's the one, the only Damon Farrell, a.k.a. Damon Dawg, on the ones and twos. Damon, how are you this fine morning?
I've been better, Derek.
I know you have.
Bijan Robin.
Parking garage issues. We've had a bad morning around here.
Well, I also lost my fantasy matchup last night for a big pot, and it was all due to the King of Tucson having the greatest game of his entire NFL career. I lost by 5 points, and Bijan scored 39.
Oh, he did. He did. He
so
killed you.
That was fun.
Shout out, by the way, to one Tommy Pham. The world is right and everything is good because speaking of fantasy football, Tommy Pham won his fantasy football league, beating a team managed by Clayton Kershaw and Ross Stripling, and he did it thanks to one Bijan Robinson as well. Also solid performances from Chris Olave somehow, some way, and Trevor Lawrence. Good stuff. Good stuff overall, though. Glad to know that everybody is safe now that Tommy Pham has won his fantasy football league. But we are not safe from the rumors. We are not safe from talking more about Alex Bregman on this podcast, and we're not doing it alone this time. We are thrilled to be joined by my brother, the one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman from Snakes Territory. Jesse, I know we have nothing but rumors to go on. I know we have nothing but hearsay to go on with all of this stuff. And I mean, that's for Cattell rumors too. Like, I feel like every one of these rumors is tied to circumstances, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of things to stack up, both in the idea of trading Ketel Marte and the idea of bringing Alex Bregman. But what I'm not really hearing is like that the Diamondbacks are firmly shopping Ketel Marte around or meeting with Alex Bregman or doing these things that would make you think that things are advancing. I know there's a lot of teams in on Alex Bregman, and I know that he's going to cost a lot of money considering he turned down 2 years, $80 million from the Red Sox, right? But like, my goodness, a lot of this just seems to be circumstantial.
Tis the season for exactly that, Derek. Although surprisingly, with both Bregman and Ketel, it's been a few days now. It's starting to feel a little odd. Like we haven't gotten. It felt for a while like it was a daily thing that you'd get some sort of rumor of some kind that probably wasn't all that meaningful, but it at least gave us something to talk about on shows like this. Right. And now it's been kind of crickets here for a few days. So I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if it means like, the D-backs are getting ready to move on from the idea of trading Ketel. That's certainly been something reported that maybe that time is coming soon. Maybe we're getting close to that point, but it's hard to really have any feel for what's going to happen. Obviously, there was the Dan Bickley report on Friday, and that was very shocking and very confident and made it sound like the Bregman thing was a done deal. But again, the past few days, nothing on that front. So the waiting continues.
I like Dan Bickley a lot, probably more so than I let on at times on this podcast, considering that at times he's at the like core of some controversial Diamondbacks issues and topics, including the Ketel Marte trade and him being so confident. Again, he did present this as what he feels is going to happen. He didn't present it as like insider information that he thinks is going to happen. Or that he was told that. But again, much like Gambo, right? Gambo reported this, what like you were saying about Ketel, that there's teams making a push, but as we get closer to the end of the month and to the new year, there's most likely going to be a shutting down of the idea of trading Ketel, where it goes from Mike Hazen is at least willing to listen to you guys to, hey, we got to get ourselves focused on 2026, and we have to figure out our roster, considering none of you chumps want to pony up anywhere close to what we want for Ketel Marte. We've had some new rumors, right, about like the Mets now being interested in him after the Jeff McNeil trade. That still doesn't make any sense, and that's a whole other thing. But the Alex Bregman situation seems to once again be circumstantial based on the fact that Bregman has such a strong connection to this team. And it feels, Jesse, like fate is actually doing everything it can to not make Alex Bregman a Diamondback, no matter how much he wants that. According to what we've been told, according to interviews that Bregman has done, he grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico as a Diamondbacks fan, as a small child, as a youth, Jesse. He grew up as a Diamondbacks fan. It makes sense. Like, I grew up in this state long before we had a baseball team, long before we had most of our sports teams besides the Phoenix Suns. So I, at times, had to just pick a team, right? Like, I guess geographically for residents of Albuquerque, New Mexico, it makes a lot of sense to be a Diamondbacks fan, but that part of it makes it feel like, again, that this is destiny for Bregman to be on the Diamondbacks, but maybe not, because they had a chance to draft him with the number 1 overall pick, and they went with Dansby Swanson, which scorned Bregman to the point that to this day he still wears the number 2 as like a scarlet letter that he was not drafted number 1 overall. Like, the connection with the Valley seems to be strong with Bregman, and he lives here and he wants to stay here. And, again, there are so many things that still make it feel like, that Bregman like wants to be here, but none of that makes it feel like a deal is going to happen. Because at the end of the day, none of this feels like it means anything. Like, it doesn't, right? It's still so expensive. $80 million he turned down for 2 years. $40 million a year he turned down. Like, I know that players might want the long-term security, but $80 million, Jesse, my God. I would take that. I would play baseball for 2 more years and you would never see me again. I would buy a small island in the Caymans and live there for the rest of my happy, happy life.
I guess the basis of Bickley's report was that Alex Bregman feels similarly to Corbin Burns in that he has young kids and he's spent some time in the Valley the past couple of off seasons. I think he's worked out here some, and so it sounds like he likes the idea of just having some stability and being planted here in Arizona for a long time. And I think that's what Bregman is really looking for in free agency. I mean, that 40 million AAV that you referenced, I don't think he's getting that from any team on the open market over a long-term deal. But I think he's okay with that. Like, I don't think he feels the need to maximize the amount of money he's making in 2026. He just wants to have some stability. Yeah. And that's something the Diamondbacks theoretically could offer. They were willing to go above and beyond with Corbin Burns in order to make that happen. I guess they could be willing to do the same thing with Alex Bregman. Still sounds like it's probably contingent on a Ketel Marte trade happening first. And that's something the D-backs clearly don't want to, like, they don't want to settle. They don't want to accept much less than they feel Ketel is worth. And it feels like that's been the hang up here, is maybe there could be an Alex Bregman move waiting around the corner after that happens. But as of right now, Ketel Marte is still a Diamondback, and I remain a little skeptical. I've gone back and forth on this many times, Derek, and I probably will go back and forth several more times before this is all said and done. But right now, I'm I'm leaning a little more skeptical again that this is going to happen. It just feels like the Diamondbacks don't have a ton of leverage here. Maybe it has to do a lot with what happened over the summer with Cattell sitting out a few games and that really posing some questions for teams. But whatever it is, the D-backs haven't gotten what they want up to this point, and it's December 30th. I mean, we're starting to get meaningfully through the offseason.
Right.
As we referenced earlier, at some point, like the D-backs are probably going to want to move on and address some of the other needs on the roster a different way so that there are still guys on the table that they could go get.
I think sometimes in life you have a hard time really defending yourself as a GM from these accusations that you are trying to trade a player away, right? Like this whole situation has always painted it that the Diamondbacks were trying to get rid of Cattell, and now even with this Bregman situation, it's shifted more to they need to unload the financial responsibility of Ketel Marte, whose annual contract averages out to like, don't they get hit for like 14 million and change? That's not a lot of money for an MVP caliber player on your roster, right? So it's like, that's crazy to me that like the Bregman move is contingent on Ketel Marte. It's crazy to me that the goalpost kind of keeps getting moved as the reason why Ketel Marte needs to be traded by the Diamondbacks. It's like once the idea was floated out there that the Diamondbacks were open to Ketel, 29 other teams and fan bases jumped on this like ravenously because of Ketel being the quality of player he is. Every fan base, every team wants him. We talked about the Tampa Bay Rays. I went through their tweets, their thirst tweets for Ketel, Jesse. I saw what they had to say. The amount of Rays fans that were like, all I wanted was Ketel Marte under my Christmas tree. Like, it's just crazy, right? So that's the Rays. That's the Rays. Other fan bases, I guess, in a position to be closer to contending, like the Mariners or the Red Sox, they were a little different. They still very much wanted Ketel. However, they do not want to give up nearly as much as, analysts and people are suggesting these teams would have to give up to get Ketel. Alex Bregman, meanwhile, he is starting to have his market not cool because he's still the excellent player that he is, right? It seems like just like with the Ketel rumors, the number of teams that are in on Bregman seems to be dying down. We know the Diamondbacks are very much rumored to be in on him. We also know that the Boston Red Sox very much want to bring him back. And it feels like those two teams are kind of the front runner. One more financially and I guess logically in the Red Sox. And then the Diamondbacks that feels like more of an emotional thing that is going to maybe not yield as much financially or maybe requires it to be pushed off longer term, but might yield more personally, like you said, living in the Valley, having your family be here. Like, this is a big deal. I don't think enough fans understand that some players literally make their home base somewhere that is not their home team, and that is where they live. So when they are essentially playing for another team, they're on the road all year long, except when they come to play the Diamondbacks here in Arizona, right? So it's like that is an underestimated aspect of this, considering when you're talking about how much money these players make, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. There's a point you can't spend it all. There's a point that your happiness comes a little bit before the amount of money you make. That was what happened with Corbin Burns, and it still very much could be what happens with Bregman. I just hope in my deepest soul, Jesse, in my heart of hearts, I hope that this does not require a Marte move in order to accompany it if it was to happen. And that's really what it comes down to for me.
And unfortunately, the reporting seems to suggest that it does, that the D-backs can't get Alex Bregman without trading Ketel Marte first, just for the financial reasons, not because the D-backs absolutely want to move Ketel no matter what, but because if you just add, say, $30 million or, maybe it's $25 million in 2026 salary for Alex Bregman, like that's pushing your 2026 payroll up close to $200 million already. And that's before the D-backs get a closer or, a first baseman platoon guy or an outfielder or any of the other things that they still probably need in order to round out this roster. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
do you think that that is more of the reason why a Ketel Marte trade would be required, because of the commitment to Bregman, handcuffing them financially to do anything else? So it's not that Ketel's contract weighs them down, but it's like, in order for them to satisfy the other needs that they have no choice at that point but to try to get a big package for Ketel and satisfy everything else they need in order to make this team competitive in 2026 through that one trade.
I think so. I mean, I think if you were to just add Bregman to the payroll right now, it's probably already more money than the D-backs are comfortable spending. I don't know that for sure, but at least the sense that we got going into the offseason where everyone's talking about them reducing payroll. I mean, it doesn't feel like you could just add 25 million to the 170 they're already at and still have room for other needs.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Where I ultimately land on this is I think if the Diamondbacks are going to if they're going to go out there and actually pull off an Alex Bregman move, I think there is a world where the team gets better if they trade Ketel Marte and they sign Alex Bregman. I'm not saying that Alex Bregman is better than Ketel, because he's not, and Ketel is better. And Ketel's on a better contract. And everybody who has that hesitation is 100% right. But it doesn't mean that your roster can't be better once you factor in the pieces you could acquire for Ketel. I mean, I think that's really the route for this roster to improve, where this isn't just about like trying to get off some bad contract, because it certainly isn't, but where you actually could make your team better by backfilling Ketel with an Alex Bregman signing and hopefully bolstering your pitching staff in the process. The outcome that I don't love at this point, Derek, is just trading Ketel Marte and not going out and signing someone like Alex Bregman. Because I think at that point, it doesn't feel like the offers for Ketel are where you'd like them to be. It doesn't feel
Obviously
like you
not.
get Hunter Green in that trade. And then at that point, sure, your pitching staff hopefully gets better. But then I think you look at the offense at that point, and it wouldn't be terrible. I mean, Corbin Carroll is awesome, right? And Gabriel Moreno and Geraldo Perdomo. But this is already a pretty top-heavy lineup as it is. If you just subtract Ketel from that lineup and you don't replace him with, another solid offensive contributor, I think your offense might slip to average, probably below average at that point. Yeah. And then, sure, you bolstered your pitching staff a little bit, but now your offense isn't really an asset for you, and it really just feels like a rearranging of the deck chairs at that point.
Yeah, and we've said that if you could get your pitching staff to be middle average, a little above average, that this team would be great, but that involves keeping the offense together. And you could argue they did not do enough to their pitching staff to raise the bullpen ERA to middle of MLB. They did not improve their starting rotation enough right now, at least until we've seen it, until we've seen guys on the pitching staff take a step forward, or in the case of Erod, find where he was at one point with the Tigers right before we got him. Then, then things could look up, right? But they have not added pieces that make you feel like the pitching staff is going to be substantially better, at least good enough to, make this team a contender next year if the offense takes any kind of step back. And the offense already did, right? Like, a lot of the offensive numbers from 2025 are still based on guys like Josh Naylor and Gino Suarez being part of this team. Gino Suarez, by the way, who was a god while he was on this team. And, again, it was a big reason why the Diamondbacks had a top 5 offense in 2025. So remains to be seen how things shake out. But I completely agree with you. The worst case scenario absolutely is a Ketel Marte trade without, adding Bregman. But I still love the idea of adding guys, Jesse, that want to be here. And that this is not a shot. That's not a shot at Ketel Marte, even though it sounds like it in this moment. It is more of like, that is what I like very much about Alex Bregman, right? A guy that wants to play for Arizona, wants to wear the Diamondbacks uniform, was a fan of this team when he was a child. Like, that's the kind of person that gets me excited about becoming part of this organization. A guy that also gets me excited, as I've said time and time again, is a guy named Tatsuya Imai, who continues to say he wants to come here and destroy the Dodgers. And I need a guy like that on my team more than anything. But he is not signed, and neither is Kazuma Okamoto, who had some brief rumors about meeting with the Diamondbacks, and then those rumors were quickly squashed. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. Again, Gambo is rarely wrong, so we're going to go there, but we're going to do it in a couple of minutes. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, you know, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 is still making the football season fun, despite the fact that many of us, our fantasy football seasons are over. So get down on the action. New users still get bonus bets, and of course, they still have tons of offers on football, including the early payout offer, which means you are a winner if your team goes ahead by 17 points on those direct payouts for straight bets, as well as parlay selections being marked as winners. That is good for the NFL as well as college football games. So do not miss out on all of these offers Bet365 has going on. It always makes betting on football more fun, more interesting. And of course, they also have their offers on NBA and NHL as well. Early payout offers across all sports. And whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers right now can receive $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. All you got to do is use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5, win or lose, to receive $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, players, props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Bet365 must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. And of course, now that the holidays are over, it is time to focus on 2026. And as a homeowner, I am going to be putting all of my focus onto repairs at my home. And I am going to do that through our friends at the Window Depot. The Window Depot has you covered no matter what refurbishments, no matter what improvements, no matter what you're trying to do around your home. And they don't just have windows. They did get started in 2002 primarily by selling windows, but now they have you covered on whatever you need, whether it's doors, skylights, cabinets, countertops, sinks, and more. They have tons of inventory that's in stock and ready for pickup today. And if you need something custom, no problem at all. The Window Depot has you covered. Contractors love the Window Depot for their job site ready quantities, unbeatable prices, and expert service. And the best part about this is no membership is required, and you do not have to be a contractor to go there and save on the best inventory that you can find here in town. They have in-house designers that are free of charge, and they can help you get started on whatever home improvement projects you're looking to get done in 2026. The Window Depot, more than a window store. Visit thewindowdepot.com and get started on your next project today. All right. Well, Jesse, we know that Major League Baseball has some international signees that have been kind of the talk of the free agency season a bit, right? I do think, Damon and I have talked about this, I do think that we are past the point of wondering if a player's skill set is going to translate over from NPB to Major League Baseball. I think we've seen that the competition level over there is equivalent, and there might be some differences, right? Like maybe fastball velocity I've heard and some other things, but you still have some amazing pitchers over there and some amazing players. One of those players was tied to the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's Kazuma Okamoto. The MLB posting window does expire here just on the other side of the new year on January 2nd, meaning that all these players must sign a contract with a major league team before that period of time expires, or they will return to their teams in Japan. So according to a report, Jesse, that surfaced this week, this was a Yahoo Sports Japan report, the Arizona Diamondbacks are one of 7 teams that Kazuma Okamoto is meeting with this week. Or is he? Because apparently this might have just been a case of bad translating on the part of, I don't know, anybody reading this article. Let's be honest.
Google?
Google's translation skills are not the best at times. And translating from certain languages like Japanese to English can be a bit tricky, considering that there are differences in the languages that don't allow I think there are some words that aren't in both languages and such, but the original Yahoo article has shown info on Okamoto indeed coming to the U.S. They cite Francis Romero's report that the San Diego Padres, the Los Angeles Angels, and the Pittsburgh Pirates are in on Okamoto and meeting with him. And then they also link in the same article, and this is where the confusion comes in, Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs, Toronto Blue Jays, and the Arizona Diamondbacks to Alex Bregman. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why the article necessarily pivots in the moment, other than maybe saying that these teams are also in on a third baseman. So since they are in on Bregman, there could be interest from these 4 teams on Okamoto. So, of course, we tweeted out before this was settled, before this was figured out, that NBC Sports,
how
Yahoo
could we,
Sports,
Derek?
how could we? We tweeted out that Okamoto was meeting with the Diamondbacks, and our guy Gambo shut that down quickly, I believe. Gambo has become like Arizona sports version of Grok, right? Like people are like, Grok, is this true? It's like, Gambo, is this true? And then Gambo's like, no, they're not meeting with him. In fact, we have a Gambo tweet, I think, here that just briefly shut it down. He said, no, D-backs are not in on him, which is kind of a shame. You know, we get excited about these international players, and especially someone like Okamoto, right? I mean, he is one of the most consistent sluggers in Japan. He's a career 277, 361, 522 hitter in the NPB, and he has 30 home runs in all but 2 of his 11 seasons playing baseball. Not bad. Not bad. Sounds pretty consistent. Sounds like the kind of hitter the Diamondbacks could absolutely add. However, Jesse, you got to admit, there's a very fine line for this organization to make mistakes. Damon and I have talked about that being one of the biggest difference from the teams like the Dodgers and the Blue Jays versus the Diamondbacks as far as spending is concerned. They can't afford to swing and miss on a guy like this that might take up a considerable portion of their payroll that doesn't, in fact, work out in Major League Baseball. Even though we said what we said, it's just still a risk there that the Diamondbacks can't really afford to take, right?
I think so. I mean, I like Okamoto. I think he has a pretty good chance to have his game translate over and be a pretty good third baseman for a major league team for a good while. At the same time, it doesn't feel like the Diamondbacks often spend in this area of the market. We've seen them sign a few international players to free agent contracts over the years. I think of Yoshi Hirano back in 2018, 2019, 2020. Right. But Hirano was at a different price point, right? It feels like the D-backs don't love taking big swings on guys that they've never seen play in the majors. They'll make smaller investments on those types of players, but we've never really seen them spend big on someone like an Okamoto, like an Imai, or I guess this kind of goes back to Yasmani Tomas back in way back when, where that move very much did not go well for the organization. And I wonder if Ken Kendrick is just a little bit more hesitant about spending on those types of unknown players. So it's not surprising to me at all that the D-backs are not a serious suitor here. I think they probably checked in at some point. I think John Heyman reported that the D-backs were quote unquote in on Okamoto not too long ago, but you never really know what that means. I mean, does that mean that they were negotiating with him last week, or does that mean that they reached out to his camp in early November just to see kind of what the price point was going to be? So it's not surprising the D-backs aren't a serious suitor here, but I like Okamoto. I think he'll probably be a pretty good player, just a little more unknown than this organization is probably comfortable with.
11.3% walk rate, Jesse. 11.3%
it's pretty good.
Strikeout.
He doesn't strike out. Yeah, he really didn't strike out much. The quality of contact was solid. He still hits home runs. I know he doesn't have Murakami power, but he hit 41 homers, just in 2023.
Yeah.
15 homers this past year in like half a season worth of games. He was hurt. So like I said, I mean, I like the player, and the D-backs could use him. I mean, they of course, if they're interested at all in Alex Bregman, you figure that any third baseman out there could make some sense. But Bregman feels like a special case to me, sort of like Corbin Burns was last year, where when Ken Kendrick sees a player's market fall a little bit, or maybe maybe there's interest in staying, in being in Arizona and taking a little bit less money to make it happen, as was the case with Corbin Burns. It feels like Bregman is just kind of in a different category, and that's why the D-backs are interested in him, while maybe not being interested in all the other third basemen that are out there.
It's a great point. Like sometimes in life, when you see something, even when it's expensive, but it's discounted, right? Like this championship belt that sits before me here, Jesse. I spent entirely too much money on this Diamondbacks championship belt, but you know what? I didn't spend full retail price. Once this thing went on sale, it didn't even have to go on as drastic of a sale as it went on. It went on a huge sale. It could have gone down 10%. The belt doesn't know that. The belt doesn't know it could have only gone down 10% and I would have bought it. But the minute I see something like this go on sale that's never on sale, I go crazy for it. So maybe Ken is the same way. Maybe Ken values Alex Bregman. Maybe this is not to knock him, but maybe this is, again, a case of Ken Kendrick treating players a bit like baseball cards, where you kind of get hyper-focused on one that you like a lot, that you feel like is going to be valuable. There might be things telling you that you're spending too much money on it, but your gut is still telling you like that's going to be worth a lot of money, right? And someone like Alex Bregman costs a lot of money, but he could be worth a lot of money. You just don't know that sometimes about these Japanese players, no matter what, right? But again, I think that entire idea has been put to bed. I feel like for the most part, the dynamic superstar players we are seeing out of Japan come here and work out more often than they don't. So I don't see a reason why to not take that risk, especially if it's going to save you millions upon millions of dollars and probably a much shorter term deal. Okamoto is not rumored to be looking for a 5-year deal. He's looking for maybe I've seen some shorter term deals out there, maybe just to prove himself a bit. And then similar to the deal that the White Sox gave Murakami. But, again, this is like a situation where I don't know, Jesse. I still want him. I still like him. I don't want him, though, nearly as much as I want Tatsuya Imai, who is now being reportedly connected to the Chicago White Sox. And that is a man who, like, his attitude and the things that I've heard him say makes me want him far more than his performance. Like, we know plenty of teams are interested in him. We know Imai is an incredible pitcher. But when you hear a guy say, I don't want to go to a team with Japanese players. I want the road to be difficult. I want to test myself and I want to grow. And most importantly, I don't want to be a damn Dodger. I want to beat the damn Dodgers. And that gets me fired up. And that is a man I feel is going to come to the United States and be electric, right? Apparently the White Sox have somehow emerged as favorites to land Tatsuya Imai.
Hey! I mean, he said he wanted the road to be difficult, so it sounds like a perfect fit to me.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Very interesting there, right? But again, it's like I like what the White Sox are doing because I was telling Damon before the show, the White Sox seem to not give a damn. Like they don't have any pressure on them to perform, so they can kind of take these risks and swing for the fences on some of these guys. And if some of these work out, this White Sox team could be surprisingly good in 2026. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks, they're right there where they feel like they were competitive last year. And like they're still in that limbo of not really committing one way or another, whether this team is bad or good. They don't know if this team is bad or good. So they can't really afford to take big swings on international players once again, because of them feeling like they're so close. They feel like if they add somebody that's a bit more proven, somebody that can really get them over the hump, that they could add 5, 6, 7 wins to this team, maybe have a pitching staff that's more competent than it was last year, and be right back in the playoff hunt in 2026.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, the D-backs have been in this position for a long time. It feels like almost Mike Hazen's entire tenure. They've never been in rebuild mode. They've certainly never embraced that side of things. But I don't know if they've ever had a roster where going into the season you were like, oh, this is definitely a 95 win type team. I guess last year we had relatively high hopes after the Corbin Burns signing.
We had 7 starting pitchers, Jesse. We were in such a good position. It was going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there were some years where the expectations were fairly high, and then because of injuries or underperformance or some combination of both, things just didn't wind up working out that way. But I think it's a good point that when you're so consistently right in the middle and trying to thread the needle with a mid-tier payroll, it's tough to justify throwing $150 million or whatever at a pitcher who's never pitched in the big leagues. I don't think it would be a bad investment. I mean, the research that I've done on Tatsuya Imai, I think there's a pretty good chance his game will translate. I think he could even be a frontline type guy if things go his way. He's got some really unique pitch shapes going for him. His slider is unique. It tends to move in the wrong direction, which if I ever saw a slider that moved arm side instead of glove side, I think that would probably freak me out a little bit as a hitter.
Make your
And
brain explode.
it probably would make my. I mean, just seeing like an 80-mile-per-hour anything would make my brain explode, because that's how bad of a hitter I was in high school. But yeah, I think Imai is whatever team makes that investment. Like, sure, there is risk, but there's also a really lot of upside with somebody like that. And I mean, maybe that's something the Diamondbacks should be more open to than they've tended to be. Like, maybe the reason they're kind of in the middle some of these seasons feels like year after year is because they're not as willing to take those big swings and really aim high rather than trying to play it safer.
You're 100% right on that. And that's, I mean, but at the same time too, yeah, they didn't try to exactly play it safe when they went after Jordan Montgomery, nor did they play it safe when they went after Corbin Burns, right? So that
well,
that
I
just
mean,
shows.
you thought you were playing it safe, kinda, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Jordan Montgomery at the time was viewed as like the safest pitcher on the market. Like, sure, he's not Blake Snell, but this guy goes out there and has a 3.5 ERA every year. And Erod, the ceiling wasn't that high, but you felt like the floor was high. And yet, obviously, the results were not there.
I believe he has a 4.57 FIP for both seasons he pitched for the Diamondbacks. How hard is that to exactly have the exact same FIP for both seasons? It's mind-blowing. Oh, man. But anyway. All right. Well, we have some good news to talk about. And that good news is that 2026 might be the season of Gabriel Moreno. We are talking about MLB.com selecting him as the Diamondbacks breakout player of the year next season. And it is somebody who we just talked about on Mailbag Monday, possibly being that kind of candidate. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, you already know that Phoenix is one of the best sports cities in America, but as most of you know, the spring is the best time to be in one of the best sports cities in America. And this spring, Phoenix Raceway is about to raise that to a whole new bar. For the first time ever, NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series will be racing during the same weekend at Phoenix Raceway, and you get a front row seat to all of it. Nothing delivers the intensity of race weekend. The engines roaring, the smell of the rubber, the crowd erupting as the field comes around turn one. It's the kind of energy you just won't find anywhere else. You also can get the kind of access you just won't find anywhere else. You can go inside the garages, walk the track, meet the drivers, and catch the pre-race concert. All of this is with the Desert Diamond Casino infield experience, and no experience brings you closer to the fans. So do not miss out on your chance to be a part of this historic weekend. The 2026 Spring NASCAR Weekend at Phoenix Raceway is making history with NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series sharing the same track on the same day, and you'll want to be able to say you were there. NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series Weekend at Phoenix, March 5th through March 8th. Secure your seats now at the link in our description. And of course, Gila River Resorts and Casinos is a great place if you have friends and family coming into town for that special event, for them to stay. Like I've said, this is where I am going to have all of my friends and family stay, just so I have an excuse to go on out to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and have a great time. Nobody does it better, and you can go all in with their over 4,500 slots and live table games, or you can catch all the action at any one of their sports books. It's a great night on the town. It's a great place to visit and a great place to stay. You can go still get that relaxing staycation here in town and enjoy all the wonderful benefits from either one of their AAA 4-diamond resorts. So with an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement you just won't find anywhere else, they have set a high bar out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Well, Jesse, we know that the Diamondbacks are going to look to players on this team next year. That's just the way that it has to be. Like, the true success of this team is going to be through the stars that are here, through Corbin Carroll, through Ketel Marte still hopefully being here, through Geraldo Perdomo trying to replicate, what he was able to do last year. The season is going to hang on those guys, but it's also going to hang quite a bit on the pitching staff, right? We know that the pitching staff needs to take a step forward in order for this team to be deemed not only competitive, but a contender at any point. Huge part of that pitching staff is the guy behind the plate, right? We saw things improve last year with James McCann back there. We still don't know why necessarily. We have our suspicions, right? We've talked a bit about what we've heard from pitchers. Pitchers last year seemed to complement both James McCann and Jose Herrera on their game calling. And we didn't necessarily hear that from Gabby Moreno all the time, right? But we do know that of the three catchers the Diamondbacks had last year, that Moreno is obviously the most talented, the future of this team, and a guy that could have a huge impact on 2026 if he finds a way to get back to what he was doing for this team in 2023. In fact, Steve Gilbert over at MLB.com on an article that was predicting the breakout seasons for breakout players for every team across Major League Baseball chose Gabriel Moreno as the player to have a breakout season in 2026. And man, Jesse, that would be amazing to see. I think that we've all known what Gabby could do since that initial season when he arrived and kind of instantly became not only the catcher of the future for this team, but the catcher of the here and now. Like, Gabby felt like he was on his way to an all-star career after that first season here with the Diamondbacks, and especially considering how far this team went with him as a part of it. It definitely felt like, the sky was the limit for Gabriel Moreno. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him have that good of a year. I know injuries have been a big part of it. I know that in general, he has made major strides in plate calling, in calling the game behind the plate. And I think that with James McCann here on this team for next season, I think that's only going to get better. I think that's going to be a great relationship and a great thing for Gabby to have somebody with that experience that he can learn from, and who I think at this point in his career is willing to kind of mentor a young player like this. But yeah, what are your things here? What are your thoughts here overall on Gabby Moreno and him taking a step forward in 2026?
He's definitely going to be one of the X factors for this team going into next year. As we've said, I mean, no matter what the rest of this offseason looks like, the lineup is probably going to be fairly top heavy when all is said and done. And Moreno he was a really big part of the offense down the stretch. When he came back from his injury, he was one of the best hitters on this baseball team. I mean, in 30 games, I think it was from August 22nd onward after that injury, he hit 311, 396, 466. That's an 863 OPS. It was basically the same number of walks as strikeouts. I mean, he has really all the ingredients to be a great hitter. His bat to ball skills have always been there. He has an approach. We've seen him take walks at times. He took more this past season. And he's got some sneaky power in there as well. Like, he can run into one every now and then. So I think the ingredients are there. As you said, we haven't really seen him put it all together yet. After seeing him in the 2023 postseason and how big a part of that he was, I was fully preparing for Moreno to just hit 20. Like, I thought Moreno might hit 25 home runs the next year. I mean, I really bought into the rise of his power.
I remember when we did some sort of stupid episode about bold predictions, one of the two of us said that Gabby Moreno was going to lead this team in home runs. I'm not going to say who.
That was a little bit irrational. I didn't say he would lead the team in home runs. But
it just goes to show how we felt about him, right? Like, again, when he comes out in 2023 and only hits 7 home runs and 50 RBI, like that's the other funny thing. His numbers for last year are equivalent to what he did in 2023, but the postseason run leaves, I think, a different memory for us as far as how he contributed, what kind of player he was. It's like kind of like Brandon Pfaadt. He somehow took his game up to another level when the playoffs came around, and that was impressive for a guy who was just 23 years old at the time, But you also have, the idea here that he was so good that, you just saw the upward trajectory. In fact, since joining this team, his OPS plus has improved every season, despite it not feeling that way. He had a 103 OPS plus in 2023, 104 OPS plus in 2024, and a 117 OPS plus last year. Last year felt like such a down year for him, and yet he still had a better batting average than he had in 2023, just by one little tiny nth of a point. But yeah, he was 285 versus 284 in 23. So it's not that out of the question to think that Moreno could take that Geraldo Perdomo step forward next year, right? But it's also it's weird to look back on his 2025 season and think of it as being so unsuccessful when he slashed 285, 353. Those things are good, but then it's his slugging percentage, right? 433, an OPS of 786. It's getting extra bases. It was being out there, quite frankly. He only played in 83 games in 2025. So I think him not being healthy and missing so much time felt detrimental to the team, and is a big reason why you hope to see him get up to 100 plus starts in 2026. You feel like if he can, especially with James McCann as the backup there, that things look pretty good for this team behind the plate.
Especially with James McCann in the picture now, I think it definitely raises the floor if Gabriel Moreno does have to miss time, or even when he's just sitting. Certainly, we don't expect Moreno to catch all 162 games. Maybe, yeah. I don't know how they would feel about having both of their catchers in the game like that.
Yeah, that's not a great idea for sure.
Maybe it's something they would look at. I mean, Moreno certainly has the bat for it, right? I mean, like he's the type of guy where you want his bat in the lineup as often as you possibly can have it, because he's one of the best 4 hitters on this baseball team right now, pretty clearly. So I think the ingredients are there. The pitch calling stuff is interesting, which you referenced earlier. It did feel toward the end of the season like the D-backs just trusted James McCann with their pitchers more than Moreno, which is not great because Moreno's been around here for a while and James McCann just kind of popped up out of nowhere. So you'd hope that Moreno could make some strides in that area going forward. I think that's going to be a really big thing for him. But all the other ingredients are there for him to be a great defensive catcher. We know the arm is there for him. That's excellent. His receiving skills are solid. So if he can get that pitch calling element up to where the rest of his game is defensively, and then what we're talking about with his offense and everything he brings on that side of the ball, I mean, I think Moreno could have a season where he's one of the top 2 or 3 catchers in all of baseball. I mean, I think that is possible. It's just a matter of staying healthy and just finding a way to put it all together in the same season. We've certainly seen him do it in spurts.
People in the chat want to remind everyone that the injuries came courtesy of the Cincinnati Reds in Major League Baseball and the grounds crew there for not calling that game. Sean says it is seriously a crime. Yes, you guys might not be wrong about that, and that definitely did lead to him getting injured. But you never know with this stuff, right? You can't. I find it preposterous anytime any athlete is the scouting report is they need to stay healthy, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're trying to. I don't think that there's anybody actively trying to get injured or hurt or miss time. Like, players love playing and they want to play, but injuries happen and you can't do anything to prevent that. What you can do is add someone like James McCann to this roster that can help round Gabriel Moreno out to make him a great catcher in every way, right? We know what he can do at the plate. We know what he can contribute offensively. It's far more than enough for him to be an everyday regular starting catcher. And as someone, Jason in the chat said, a team needs 2 solid catchers simply because it's the most physically demanding position. He's absolutely right about that. But really what it comes down to is that James McCann offers so much more to Gabriel Moreno than even a Jose Herrera. Like, players aren't looking at an older player and thinking like, oh my God, this guy has so much to teach me, more than, someone they see as a peer. Like, I'm sure Gabby and Jose Herrera had a great relationship. I'm sure there was plenty of information shared between the two of them. And I'm sure Gabby grew as a pitcher with Jose there as his backup, right? But James McCann just offers another level of experience. And I think at least in my opinion, at least I'm just speculating here, I feel like he's the kind of guy that now that he's been on the team for more than a year now, like now that he's actually been on this team, not only does he know more about his pitching staff and his fellow teammates, but I feel like he might be more comfortable, even more comfortable in 2026 now that this team is bringing him back to offer, his experience up to the rest of his team. Like when you're new to a team, sometimes you're not trying to be super vocal. You're not trying to go out there and change what guys are doing or offer up your opinion to players that you might have just met and barely know, right? But now that James has had a chance to work with these guys, now that he is going to be here for a full season and the Diamondbacks have showed how much they value him, that maybe that experience that he can share with Gabby can only increase and make Moreno a better player, right? McCann understands his role at this point in his career, and we've heard from Torey about like the baseball conversations that he generates in the dugout during a game that maybe young players don't necessarily do as often, but they see someone like McCann doing it and they feel like, oh wow, this was helpful. This is something we should all be doing. We need to be communicating with each other and making these kind of positive, I guess this is sharing of information a thing throughout the team, right? Like it's stupid for me to say any of this. Like none of this is like new information, but it just feels like it's going to get better the more time McCann is part of this team, and you feel like Moreno is going to get better with time the more McCann is part of this team. Moreno truly is the future. We don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to find a way to extend him and make him a part of the long-term plan, but he definitely fits in, with the rest of this young core that the Diamondbacks have like locked in for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 more years of Gabby Moreno, and I think that, again, I think he has all the ingredients to be one of the best catchers in all of baseball. You mentioned it was a 117 OPS plus, something like that this past year. I mean, could that push to 125 or even 130? I mean, there are very, very few catchers that are able to operate in that territory. Basically none. I mean, obviously there's Cal Raleigh, but and Will Smith. But beyond those two guys, there are not very many catchers who are able to operate in this way. And it's why Moreno is such a valuable player. I mean, it's great to get offense from any position, but when you can get offense, premium level offense from behind the plate, it really sets you apart from a lot of other teams.
Our guy Sean in the chat, Jesse, wants to know before we move on what your thoughts on the Phoenix Suns and Jordan Ott are. Now, I was going to make a comparison earlier that I didn't know if I really wanted to make to, the Suns trading Kevin Durant and getting the pieces back that they did and having that trade at the time look like the Suns were just waving the white flag on this season and they were kind of relegating themselves to being one of the worst teams in the league. Instead, that trade that didn't look like it necessarily favored the Suns at the time very much looks like it's favoring the Suns now. And even though they did that move to trade away an absolute superstar and a future Hall of Famer to get back what was deemed smaller pieces and financial flexibility for them to make other moves, this team is somehow where it's at. I know Jordan Ott probably has a lot to do with that as well. So change of manager, change of coach might also be part of that recipe as well. It just feels like, again, these two teams are in a similar position, and the Ketel Marte trade could be very similar to that. And that's what you were kind of talking about earlier as far as getting better through a Marte trade.
It is possible. And I hope that if it happens, that D-backs fans will at least be open to the possibility of like, okay, it objectively kind of sucks to lose a star level player like Ketel Marte, no matter what you get back. But it doesn't mean it's impossible for the team to get better in the process. I think especially if you're able to sign some other player to contribute to your lineup, somebody like an Alex Bregman, if the D-backs are able to backfill in some way offensively, I think they really could be a better team on paper with whatever pitching they land in that trade. And it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to get better, though. I mean, the D-backs still need to make sure that they're getting somewhat fair value for Ketel. I mean, you don't want to just
100%.
give him away. It honestly felt like the Suns sort of gave away Kevin Durant. I mean, maybe not exactly, but the perception at the time was definitely not that they did well in that trade. I guess it looked a little better after they were able to draft Malawach with the 10th pick. Maybe that looks a little worse now because he never plays. It still makes me sad. But yeah, I think it's possible that a Ketel trade could make the D-backs better when all is said and done. But the D-backs just need to do their best right now if they are going to trade him to try to get everything that they possibly can.
Well, we have been having some fun, Jesse, at least trying to have some fun when it comes to watching football, by the way. There's plenty of fun to be had watching the Suns.
Is that possible? Is that
Not
possible?
really, but it is when you hang out with diehards. Like, I got my guy Ryan Hanley keeping me company out at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and that we hug each other, we cry a little bit. We were like, remember when the Cardinals were 2-0? Remember those days? Oh, those were such good days. But anyway, we can still get together and have some fun because we have one more watch party here for the Arizona Cardinals out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. So join Bo Brock, join Johnny Venerable, join me or Espo. One of us will be out there drinking and eating and trying to have a good time. The rest of the PHNX crew for the Ultimate Cardinals away game watch parties at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass. We got live pre, half, and post-game shows. Those poor guys have to do a watch-along and 3 shows about this Cardinals team. So no matter how bad you feel as a fan, you should feel worse for Johnny and Bo. But also, we have PHNX giveaways. We have immaculate vibes, and we have a lot of fun to be had. So make sure to join us. You can RSVP for our Cardinals away watch parties at gophnx.com/events today. And again, it's very, very free. So make sure to join us for that. Jesse, it's the end of the year, and we are getting out of here. I know this year has been rough at times, but at the same time, it is a pleasure still to be sitting here doing this show with you, even if it's as infrequently as we do. But before we get out of here, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any New Year's resolutions? I know one of mine is not saying, quite frankly, nearly as much on this program. Damon has to glockenspiel me for it. There are people leaving comments saying, drinking games are fun if you drink every time, Derek says, quite frankly. So I'm trying to do that less, but anything on your end, any bad habits you're trying to get rid of?
I don't have any bad habits, Derek.
I know. You're like literally perfect for sure.
No, I actually, on that note, I think my habits are just so poor in general that I don't trust myself to be able to keep any New Year's resolution. So I generally am not a big New Year's resolution guy because I've just disappointed myself so many times over and over again. But I would love to go hiking more often in 2026. It's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things to do now living out in San Diego. It looks a little different than the desert. Not all in a good way necessarily. I don't mean that as like putting down Arizona because there's something,
you're used to us. You're used to this. You're used to the rocks and the stuff out here. The saguaro cacti. That's your stomping grounds.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But an ocean view hike every now and then also doesn't hurt. So hopefully I can get more of that in 2026.
Yeah. I will say I tried to make some changes this year. I don't know if all of them were good. I was on social media less in 2025. That was one of my resolutions, to try to live in reality. And all I feel like is that people were sad that I wasn't posting pictures of stuff I was doing as much anymore. So there was that. But overall, I will say I think in general, I've heard this phrase lately about comparison being the thief of joy, right? And I think that far too often, especially in the social media world, we deprive ourselves of the true joy in our real life because we're too often looking at the lives of others and wishing that we had more. Let me just tell you, I've lived for a very brief amount of time a rock star's lifestyle for weekends sporadically throughout the year by traveling with my friend Megaran. And let me tell you, for those of you that want that, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. He'll be the first to tell you that too. Not even me telling you that from riding on his coattails or just kind of, accompanying him as a sidekick to places, I might be the spliff star to his Busta Rhymes, but I do not want to live that life. I love this life. I enjoy being here, and I enjoy talking to you guys 5 days a week. So again, thankful for all of you for joining us. Jesse's right. Resolutions are stupid. Don't wait for a particular time to start doing something. If you want to make an improvement in your life, sometimes you're in November and you're like, man, I can't wait till January comes around so I can start dieting. Do it now. What are you doing? Get yourself, the future is not promised. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So make sure you get started on those resolutions today. Don't wait a couple of days. Do it now. But again, we appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate Jesse for stopping by. You can follow him at Jesse N. Friedman. You can check out his show at Snakes Territory. You can get that podcast wherever you see this one. Also, just for the hell of it, also follow Jack Summers because he's a delight over at, what is it, Shoe Wizard
59.
59. Oh, man, he's going to kill me for that one. But all right. The rest of you can follow us, if you don't already, on Twitter. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. Damon is at Damon Dawg with a DAWG. We're all Damon's dogs. Bark, bark.
Bark, bark.
The dog doesn't always do it at the right time.
Do you
but
pull
you
pull the dog's tongue? That's how that happens?
Yeah. You pull the dog's
it's just like me in real life.
It's just like, it's like Damon, like pulling teeth out of him to get him to comment to me sometimes, right? You know? Damon, are you there? No. But anyway, we appreciate you guys so much. Of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We will see you guys tomorrow. Our schedule is that we have one more show left. Our guy Cogs is going to be here. We are going to discuss the Diamondbacks bullpen and Cogs believing in the pieces we have. It's going to be an interesting discussion. Can't wait for that. But until then, we appreciate you guys. Hope you have a wonderful evening. We are off Thursday and Friday, so we'll be back after tomorrow's show on Monday. So until then, enjoy yourselves. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you guys all have a safe and happy New Year's Eve. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you properly translate articles from Japan.
We all silly like the mayor.